Hello. We are going to talk about Genesis chapter 22 and within 22 about laws about social justice. 16. If a man seduces a virgin who is not betrothed and lies with her, he shall give the bride price for her and make her his wife. If a father utterly refuses to give her to him, he shall pay money equal to the bride price for virgins. Virgin, to be a virgin, it was sort of a commodity, to be honest. But in any case, so if a man lied with a girl, he was supposed to pay the bride price. If not, if the father refused, then he still would have had to pay the bride price. And the reason is, if a girl wasn't a virgin anymore, she would have had problems to get married. So this, in a sense, ensured that she would be, I'm not sure if she would have been able to be well off, but at least she would have been able to survive. You shall not permit a sorceress to live. Now, if you look into the demonic stuff, and I've read many books about the demonic stuff, demonic activities, demonic possessions, I can understand where God's coming from. Because you hear, I've even been to a seance, scaring experience. But in any case, that was before knowing the Lord. And so people are inviting dead relatives, the ghosts of dead relatives, for example, to appear, and they reckon these are demons. Even if you look at the UFOs, there are more and more reportages of UFOs, and there's evidences, and now they're talking about them before the US Congress. They reckon these are all demons for various reasons. I don't want to get into it, but if you want, you can look these up. But I can understand that if you get into the demonic stuff, and I've read about it enough to know that these are things not to be trifled with. You leave the demonic stuff alone. Whoever lies with an animal shall be put to death. There's nothing to add to that. They reckon that's how HIV started. Whoever sacrifices to any god other than the Lord alone shall be devoted to destruction. Whoever you worship to, you become like the one you worship to. So if you worship God, if you worship destruction, you become destruction. If you worship, even Jesus said, you can't worship both God and Mammon, the devil one. So you have to be careful what it is you feed, because whatever you feed is going to grow. And the more you feed a different God, who is not as good as the Lord, who is not great, who cannot give you salvation, you will become like that person. And the whole idea of worshipping God is so that you may become like him. You shall not wrong a sojourner or oppress him, for you are sojourners in the land of Egypt. You shall not mistreat any widow or fatherless child. If you do mistreat them and they cry out to me, I will surely hear their cry, and my wrath will burn, and I will kill you with the sword, and your wives shall become widows, and your children fatherless. Now, if you were a sojourner, you had to be treated fairly, morally. Because think about it, and it's not even as relevant as when it was given. Then later, think about it, the Jews later, 50, 100 years later, sojourners came and they oppressed them. But when the Jews were sojourners, they needed to be they needed not to be oppressed. They needed the help of God. They needed people to be nice with them, to treat them morally, in a morally correct way. This is why important to treat them. And the other thing is, if you look at verse 22, you shall not mistreat any widow or fatherless child. Now, widows, they had no husband. fatherless child, they had no fathers, which are extremely important in a society. Because if you had a fatherless child, then the mom was a widow automatically. And again, it's a problem. And God took really great care of those who couldn't protect themselves. When we're going to get into the dietary laws, we're going to see, even there you're going to see how much God actually cares for those who can't protect themselves. But God says that He will be wrathful and will kill them with a sword, meaning they will die by the hands of the enemy. Which sort of became true and became relevant. I can recommend a good book. It's called the Jewish War, the War of the Jews, or the War of the Hebrews by Josephus Flavius. If you read the Old Testament and you read what happened to the Jews at the hands of the Romans, you're going to be shocked to see the similarities. If you lend money to any of my people with you who is poor, you shall not be like a moneylender to him. You shall not exact interest from him. I'm often thinking about this in society. Who is the one who gets abused the most? And it's the poor people, because the rich people can buy. If you can afford to buy a car, you pay for the price. If you're poor, you're not able to pay the price of the car. You pay the price of the car plus interest. If you can't afford to buy a house. So rich people always pay less for the same thing than the poor people. If the poor people have to buy them on a finance. But here God said, if you lend money, don't charge interest. If ever you take your neighbor's cloak in pledge, you shall return it to him before the sun goes down. For that is his only covering, and it is his cloak for his body. In what else shall he sleep? If he cries to me, I will hear, for I am compassionate. So, if there is a poor person and he gives his cloak to you for something, whatever, as a pledge for something, give it back to him. You know you can afford whatever it is he asks for. If it happened within reason, then don't take the only thing he has left. You shall not revile God, nor curse the ruler of your people. Which diametrically opposes how we talk about our leaders today. Not in the church, in government. Yeah, you won't revile God if you're a believer, if you're a follower of Christ. But cursing your ruler, that's a different story. You shall not delay to offer from the fullness of your harvest and from the outflow of your presses. The firstborn of your son you shall give to me. So the offering, it's the New Testament way of offering is actually built upon this law, because you have to give out of what you can give. If you can't give a lot to the Lord for whatever reason, then you're not able to give a lot. But in any case, you have to, whatever you give has to be proportionate to what you can give. The firstborn of your sons you shall give to me. That is about Jesus. That is the basis of God telling, actually it is what God is in essence telling the people, that the firstborn belongs to God, because the firstborn is so precious. You shall not do the same with your oxen and with your sheep. 7 days it shall be with its mother. On the 8th day you shall give it to me. It's interesting that the infants were circumcised on the 8th day. You shall be consecrated to me. Therefore you shall not eat any flesh that is torn by a beast in the field. You shall throw it to the dogs. So they reckon the reason is animals' blood had to be drained in a certain way. So if the animal was torn by beasts in the field, then the blood wouldn't have been drained instantly, and you weren't allowed to eat the animal. What we see from this section of chapter 22 is how much God cares for those who can't defend themselves. Amen.